Welcome to the Pathfinder podcast, where we examine the paths of those that have gone before us and use this knowledge to smooth the process of forging our own path. Today is Veterans Day, as we watch these operators dive into the abyss of the blue skies from a UH-60 Blackhawk helicopter. The students, families, faculty, and staff here at ASU await the landing of an HH-60 Whiskey Pave Hawk from the 305th Rescue Squadron. Much like the British Commonwealth and teams of the English Premier League wearing the poppy for the first 2 weeks of November, we kick off the start of Arizona State University's Salute to Service, a 10-day remembrance surrounding Veterans Day, with a multitude of events ranging from remembrance at sporting events to veteran storytelling and poetry. Wherever your interests lie, there's a way to get out there and share the remembrance with your fellow veterans and Sun Devils. It was a momentous event to welcome the 305th Rescue Squadron to the Sun Devil campus. It's been 15 years since ASU hosted an aircraft landing on campus, and credit goes to Lieutenant Dan Farizami. It was his brainchild as a cadet at ASU's Air Force ROTC Detachment 025, and once he was assigned to the detachment as an ROTC instructor, awaiting his assignment to undergraduate pilot training, he saw his window of opportunity to deliver on that brainchild. Also, credit goes to the commander of Detachment 025, Lieutenant Colonel Richardson, putting trust in this young lieutenant and telling him, do whatever your bars can support, meaning, I'll give you the freedom to be creative within the authority of your rank and position. This is exactly what young officers need to grow and become great leaders: freedom and creativity. As a young lieutenant in the 90s, the military budget was extremely limited, and many times my team couldn't get the support from our command to practice parachute training. I took it upon myself to go to air shows and network with Air Force units. I determined that if I could find aircraft that were funded to fly missions in the vicinity of my unit, I could convince them to make a brief stop, let my guys board the aircraft, and jump out of their aircraft. It worked, and I was able to jump out of some exotic aircraft like the C-7 Caribou. Oddly enough, I trained with the 71st Special Operations Squadron back in the 1990s before they were reflagged as the 305th Rescue Squadron in the later 1990s. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, November 18th, 1918, Armistice Day was marked as the end of the war to end all wars, World War I. Following World War II and the Korean War, this evolved into Veterans Day, honoring all U.S. military veterans for their service and sacrifices. The scope of military service had significantly expanded, and there was a push to recognize all veterans, not just those from World War I. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed legislation that officially changed the name of Armistice Day to Veterans Day. This change was made to honor all U.S. military veterans, acknowledging their contributions and sacrifices across all wars and conflicts. Sadly, war and conflict continues around the world, and today, the Ukraine looks much like the hellscape of World War I battlefields. We continue this remembrance every year and recognize both active duty and post-service veterans of war and military conflict. We all hope and pray for an end to armed conflict. When I was a young lieutenant, I learned that Chris Christopherson was an anti-war activist. It kind of blew my mind. Being a young, hard-charging officer, Chris Christopherson had been a Ranger-qualified helicopter pilot stationed in West Germany during the Cold War under the 8th Infantry Division. Somehow, this didn't compute for me at the time. Chris had literally reached a pinnacle position in the Army's recognized training and experience hierarchy, yet now he had taken a position against all he had worked for. I decided to dig deeper on this subject and learned more about Chris, and learned how he was a Rhodes Scholar in 1958, graduating with a Bachelor of Philosophy degree in English Literature in 1960. Once on military leave, also known as vacation, Chris went to Nashville, Tennessee. While there, as he said, he just fell in love with the music community and all that was going on there. Chris was offered an associate professor teaching position for English literature in the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He declined the offer and left the U.S. Army in 1965, deciding to pursue music. After all this time, now I get it. If you read, listen to, or watch videos of some of the toughest warriors that emerge from this country's global war on terrorism, aka GWAT, you'll think you're hearing words of Chris Christopherson. In Chris's song, The Pilgrim, Chapter 33, he sings, "He's a poet, He's a picker. He's a prophet. He's a pusher. He's a pilgrim and a preacher and a problem while he's stoned. He's walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction, taking every wrong direction on his lonely way back home. In many ways, he's describing our own path, and our paths as some type of enigma. We want to liberate the oppressed and have learned warfare is not always the answer. Chris Christopherson passed away at his home on Maui on 28 September 2024 at the age of 88. Now it's time for some Dadvice. I keep telling you all to get out there and seek adventure. The most scarce commodity in life is time. You don't get any more time as you get older. Uncle Salty is speaking from experience here. One of my biggest regrets is not taking advantage of my free time while stationed in Germany. I was trying so hard to prove myself as a young leader, I didn't take time to stop and smell the roses. Well, not literally, but I didn't take advantage of the things that were around me. Later in life, I became a big fan of European football, and while living in Germany, I was surrounded by some amazing football clubs. The Germans make it a point to ensure certain things in society don't get priced out of the ability of regular citizens, and football tickets are one of those things. I had time and the ability to attend some amazing matches, but didn't make time to enjoy the experience. So this week's Dadvice is to take a look around you, see what's going on, like some of the things that are going on with the Salute to Service events, and make some time to smell the roses. After hearing today's episode, I hope you'll take some time and remember the active duty and veterans that put their lives on the line for this country and all it stands for. Get out there and smell the roses, seek adventure and fulfillment in your life. Remember, fulfillment in life can come through seeking balance. Life doesn't have to be a constant juggling act. Put intention in your actions, and your path will be a lot less rocky. If you're listening to this audio version of the podcast, please go over to the YouTube channel at TF Pathfinder. That's Tango Foxtrot Pathfinder on YouTube, and you'll see some incredible video and imagery. If you learned something that's useful in forging your own path, reach out to us at our email, pathfinderpodcast@fastmail.com. Please like and subscribe to the Pathfinder podcast and share the show with all those you feel might benefit from the Pathfinder stories. This is Salty the Sun Devil coming to you from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication in beautiful downtown Phoenix, Arizona. Now go find your path.